Buff fans, what is up? Welcome on into the SCO Show, powered by our friends over at Peckish. Top tier chicken wings, top tier pizza. Check out our friends over at Peckish. But the good times continue to roll as the Colorado Buffaloes stomp the Cincinnati Bearcats 34-23. They get Miss Peggy to a bowl game, but I know Chase and Coach Prime doesn't want to admit it either. They've got their sights set on something much bigger, a spot in the Big 12 championship game, potentially a spot in the Big 12 playoff.
Peggy has nice taste, AP. Peggy has nice taste. Yeah,
you want to get her to
a bowl game, but she's not going to no Sun Bowl in El Paso, Texas.
No, we're getting her to a top-tier bowl game. That is for sure. And Anilo Piro, Chase Howell, you can follow me on social at Media by AP. He's at Chase Howell _. Make sure to subscribe to the Mile High Sports YouTube channel. That way you guys never miss an episode of the SCO Show and all the incredible content that we have each and every week about all of your favorite Colorado sports teams. But Chase, the final score was not indicative of how much Colorado controlled that game against Cincinnati. I mean, it felt like they got out to a good start and really didn't look bad. You got to give credit where credit is due. Cincinnati did do a good job of kind of fighting there at the end, but Colorado ultimately escaping with a 34-23 victory. I know you were there. I'm over the late night kickoffs. I will say that. I know there's a lot of Buff fans out there that don't live in Colorado, that live on the East Coast, that have to suffer through that. But a win is a win. And as we've talked about on this show, they get better as each game goes along.
I have not walked out of Folsom Field feeling that good about my Colorado Buffaloes in a very long time. You'd probably have to go back to 2016 against Washington State or Utah, one of the last games of the season, since you have felt that good about a Colorado football team. We kicked their ass every which way in that football game, and really the only reason they were in it was a few flags that kept a couple drives going or shut down a couple of our drives. But other than that, if those didn't happen, I think you would have seen a score that was about a 21-point win over Cincinnati or 28-point win even. That was how dominant it felt sitting inside Folsom Field. There wasn't a second of that game where I felt like Cincinnati had a chance to win. And it goes to show how all three phases were that good for Colorado on Saturday. They were able to run the football. I know a lot of people are talking about that, but obviously you got Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter making plays as well. And then defensively, it just looked like Cincinnati could not do anything throwing the football. And I knew that that's when we had that game wrapped up.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have been talking about the defense potentially being the strong suit of this Buffs team, I feel like since like week 2 or week 3. And I mean, it's just good complementary football. Like you have ultimate trust in Shedeur Sanders and the litany of receivers that he has to drive the ball down the field. But to your point, the running game, baby, got established. Isaiah Augusta, 22 carries for 91 yards and a tutty. Dallin Hayden added 36 yards on 10 carries. And we say it every time. I think that just opens up everything else for this Colorado Buffaloes team. Can I also say one thing? Stupid. It is so stupid to penalize Jimmy Horn Jr. You know how sick that looked on TV? I can imagine what it looked like when you were there in the stands and whatnot. He catches the ball, little shimmy shake, boom, he's gone, throws up the deuces, and he gets called back for a penalty. Obviously, it doesn't affect Colorado in that outcome, but that was like a picturesque moment. It's like, I understand it, showboating and taunting and this and that, but like, that is peace because Jimmy Horn Jr. is just that quick and that good of a wide receiver. Hated the call, understood why they made it, but also kind of a cool moment in the game.
Well, it's just a dumb rule. Why are you able to score a touchdown and it gets called back at the spot of the foul? I mean, it doesn't happen in the NFL. I guess they just want to get taunting out of college football, and I guess I can see that, but it happens all the time in the NFL. Tyreek Hill gets loose. What's going up? The peace sign. Yeah. So why can't Jimmy Horn do it in college football when nobody can catch him? It looked awesome. I thought it was a wave for a second, and then I saw on the replay that it was a peace sign. But either way, if you're waving goodbye, if you're throwing up the deuces, it looks cool. Poor Jimmy Horn. I know he probably felt really, really bad about that. But spot foul is just a dumb penalty, and it needs to just be enforced on the kickoff.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's not like you flipped him the bird. Like, sign a peace. Like, peace, brother. Like, I'm out. Like,
you might as well have flipped him the bird.
Yeah, exactly. And I know Coach Prime pulled him aside after and they got it all cleaned up. But like we said, a win is a win. And Colorado now at 6-2 on the season, looking to make some noise. They enter the AP top 25 as the 23rd ranked team in the country. And I saw something that Coach Prime, they were ranked early last year, now ranked again now. The first coach, I believe, since Gary Barnett to have the Buffaloes ranked in consecutive seasons like that. So obviously trending in the right direction are the CU Buffaloes under the command of Coach Prime. But I want to play this soundbite here real quick, this clip. Coach Prime talked about how it's cute to be in a bowl game. And I think it kind of hits the fact that they're not satisfied with just getting to any bowl game. They want to get to a quality bowl game. Here's Coach Prime on his thoughts on his Buffaloes team at 6-2, clinching a bowl game.
It's cute. It really is, because we really want that, but that's not all we're after. That's one of the hurdles that we're jumping over, that we're going over. That's a tremendous hurdle that we're happy, we're excited, but that's not the end goal for us. That's the beginning. That's the beginning. But we are thankful and appreciative that the hard work is going noticed.
Good stuff there from Coach Prime, and we're going to be joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Adam Munsterteiger, coming up here in just a little bit on the program. Curious to kind of pick his brain on what potential bowl games are maybe out there. Let's have some fun, though, Chase, because at 23, with a pretty favorable schedule, now on the bye, right? They'll come back and play Texas Tech. They're going to need some help, but I think Colorado definitely has a chance to qualify for either the Big 12 championship game or the college football playoff as one of those at-large bid teams. It's going to take some help, like I said. I mean, you need BYU. I mean, BYU, I think, is kind of set in stone. But I think the threshold for a CFP team is once you have 3 losses, you can essentially knock yourself out of there. So you're looking for Iowa State to get a loss. Kansas State has 2 losses. And I know they play each other at the end of the season as well. But Colorado as a team, entering the top 25, playing their best football when they need to, close loss to Kansas State. I mean, I think a spot in the Big 12 championship game is definitely on the table if they can get some help.
Yeah, it's definitely not out of the question. I know a lot of people say it's a narrow path to the college football playoff, but Iowa State and Kansas State have to play each other. BYU's schedule is pretty easy. It's almost the same thing that CU has left on the table, actually. It's a lot of the same teams. But those 2 teams have to play each other. So if you can have them get another loss elsewhere, especially Kansas State, obviously they have the head-to-head against Colorado. Iowa State is obviously 1 game ahead of Colorado. So both of them need a couple of losses, but I think it's going to be BYU and then one of the 3 teams. And we're just going to have to see how November plays out. But 4 games and you have a chance. I remember where we were sitting. It might have been even after the Baylor game, but it was after CSU or Baylor. And I was talking to different sports books about Travis Hunter's Heisman odds. And one of them goes, CU's going to be an underdog for the rest of the season. Well,
that's funny.
Look at what has happened now. These last 4 games, they're going to be favored. They were just favored against Cincinnati. They probably should have been. They were favored against Arizona as well. So it has completely flipped. And I don't think I've seen a Texas Tech line. I know that line's probably going to be close, but I still expect CU to be favored by maybe around 3 points or so. And then the other 3 games, I think they're going to be favored by closer to a touchdown. So CU has a great chance to be able to run the table over these last 4 games. I love that the toughest game is right after a bye. I think they're going to have a better understanding about how to prep during the bye than they did against Kansas State. And speaking of Kansas State, they're a Travis Hunter injury away from probably being ranked in the top 15 right now and us seriously talking about this college football playoff.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And not having Travis, for a majority of that game definitely impacted the outcome of that one. I mean, you saw him against Cincinnati, touchdown, backflip into the Spider-Man, making just like incredible play after incredible play, playing 99.9% of the snaps. I mean, he's the best player in college football. And I have a clip from Coach Prime that I'll play when we talk about the Heisman race here in just a moment as well. But sticking kind of with the college football playoff dynamic, Prime also talked about how they're not thinking about that. That's what he's saying publicly. I'm sure in the back of his head, he's thinking about that. Here's what Coach Prime had to say about his Colorado Buffaloes team with their chance to make the college football playoff.
Well, we ain't thinking about the playoffs right now, right? We go 1 game at a time. We don't even want to be ranked. Don't rank us, please. We don't like that. We rather be in the back in the dark, just chilling in the cut. We good. We cool. We straight. All right, so don't rank. Don't feel pressure to rank. We good. We're good. I promise you, everybody. We are straight. We're good. So we're not thinking about that. We're thinking about going into this bye week, healing. Some injuries, correcting some things that we didn't do well, and having a good time, and probably giving them a day or two off. They're not getting a whole week off, I promise you that, but it's a day or two off. They deserve that tremendously.
So Coach Prime kind of joking there, don't rank us. Colorado is ranked number 23 in the AP top 25. And I think he knows that they were going to be ranked after that game. But you know what it is, Chase, is I think that Colorado's embracing a bit of that underdog type of role. Like the fact that they're not getting the national spotlight. I saw their ratings are down this year compared to last year, but I think it's because they're actually a good football team and you don't have as many haters tuning in to Colorado this year as you were maybe last year. And also at the fact that, it's what Coach Prime did in year one was a spectacle. Not to say that this season isn't, but like the expectations are much different. So Buffalo's team is ranked. I like that chip on their shoulder. I like that underdog mentality. And we'll have to see what the Colorado Buffaloes can do here moving forward. But real quick, you guys, let me tell you about our friends over at Peckish, because if you are going up to any Colorado Buffaloes game the rest of the way this season, or if you're going up to see CU basketball, or if you're a parent out there visiting your kid who goes to CU, you got to make sure to check out our friends over at Peckish. 2 locations in Colorado, one up on the hill, so it's perfect walking distance from the Colorado campus. But for all of my Denver Metro Colorado Buffalo fans out there, their brand new location located at 4920 South Newport in the Denver Tech Center, right off of I-25 in Bellevue. I'm not even going to lie, dude. I had a dream, and Peckish was in the dream the other night. It was me, you, and Danny Bailey. I dream about work all the time, but it was us 3 doing our Peckish picks, going there after the SCO show and just munching on some wings. I was there last week with DB. And I mean, it's just absolutely top tier food. And for anyone that works at the Denver Tech Center, Monday through Friday, our friends over at Peckish have an incredible lunch special, a 1-topping personal pizza for only $10. They do a flip night throughout the week, incredible drink and shot specials. I always see them promoting it on their social media. And needless to say, Chase, the food is absolutely top tier.
Food is delicious. Got great screens to be able to watch games. One huge screen to be able to watch Colorado Buffaloes game. It is the spot to be if you're in the South Metro area to watch the CU Buffs. You're going to get some great food, obviously great drinks as well, great beers on tap. There is not a single reason why you shouldn't be at Peckish to watch the Colorado Buffaloes.
Yeah, they have the equivalent of 8 60-inch TVs, kind of all that's the size of the screen that they have in their Denver Tech Center location. And you know what? I got to give Danny Bailey credit. He filled in last week, and he mentioned that I think it was his second time going to Peckish. The first time we were there together, we were outside. That's the other thing. I know it's a little cold this week, but when the weather's still good, you can sit on their patio out in the Denver Tech Center. But he made the point that he felt like he was in college again. With all the CU memorabilia and decor, all hung up around the bar and the restaurant. I mean, it is not just a sports bar. It is a CU bar. So if you're in the Denver metro area, again, check out our friends over at Peckish, 4920 South Newport, right off of I-25 in Bellevue, and make sure to make Peckish your go-to spot before or after any event involving the University of Colorado, whether you're going to a game, whether you're taking a tour of the campus, whatever it might be. Just absolutely phenomenal chicken wings up there. And then at the Denver Tech Center, they do the chicken wings and the pizza oven coming soon up in Boulder as well. But be sure to check out our friends. Helps us keep the lights on, helps us support this show over at Peckish, guys. You will not be disappointed. Top tier food and good times with all of your CU Buff faithful. So let's continue along the conversation right here on the SCO Show. And Elo Piro, Chase Howell. Hope you guys are doing well out there at Media by AP at Chase Howell _. Make sure to like and subscribe. This video really helps us out as well. And I've just had a blast doing this show. Last year we did it on radio, and this year we were like, you know what? I love radio. I'll always be a radio guy, but I think moving the show to YouTube has just helped us reach a much wider audience. So thank you to all the folks out there as well. Let's get back here real quick with the college football playoff talk, and then I want to touch on the Heisman Trophy here real quick. What number does CU have to have next to their name in order to be considered for the college football playoff?
Well, I was watching that. It's kind of I try to not say the word bullshit, but I'll say it's kind of a bullshit show that on ESPN. I guess I could say bull crap. That's probably what
bull junk.
Bull junk would be what Coach Prime wants me to say. That show that they do that is like, what does the playoff look like based off of the AP poll? And I think it's basically just the top 12 teams in the AP poll. I don't even think number 13 got in there. So it would have to be top 13, maybe 14 with a couple of like SEC teams just above that they're willing to keep out. Might give them a chance, but yeah, I think it would have to be top 13. And I know a lot of the TV networks would probably want CU in it. So that's why it's hard to picture right now, but maybe a 10-2 CU team that doesn't make the Big 12 championship, they still might have a chance just based off of the hype around this program. But we talked a little bit about the national media. It has been different this year. We have not seen Big Noon Kickoff show up to Boulder. We have not seen College Game Day show up to Boulder. The national media shied away. They didn't want to do the hype train too early, and now it's almost too late for them to come to Boulder because they don't have these crazy games on their schedule. So it's a really interesting season in terms of what the national media has done. I know they love to talk about Travis Hunter, but they just refused to kind of talk about this team throughout the year. And I think a lot of that had to do probably with the Nebraska game and getting dominated early, and everybody already made up their mind about what Colorado was just because they got down so much so early. And now I think the national media has been wrong about this team all year long.
Yeah, 100%. And I know that Nebraska loss early, I think, proved a lot of haters right. But then to your point, they've been pretty good in they've won every game with the exception of one, which they could have won down the stretch. Here's what I'll throw out to you. I mean, here's the other thing too, is obviously, the 4 conference winners, they're going to get their automatic bids. And then I think the commissioners in each respective conference will do their absolute duty in trying to protect the runner-ups in each conference and try to make sure that they get a bid for sure. But I think if Colorado can get to 15, like I think that's the lowest they could be. You said what, top 12, top 13, which makes a lot of sense. I think if Colorado can get to 15, and I don't understand exactly how the committee's going to do this, but you made the point. The ratings would be sensational. And I wonder, I was talking about this with Troy Rank of the Denver Post earlier this week, that if they can get to that top 15 ranking, do they get a little bit of grace from the committee and the voters and all that kind of stuff and the TV networks for sake of juice? Because no disrespect, like let me pull up the rankings here right now. I mean, Indiana's great. Bama's at 14. Like let's say Boise State finishes at 15, right? Let's say Iowa State loses a game or two. Like there's some teams over here that maybe have some, Kansas State, another team being an example, Pittsburgh at 18. How do you not put Colorado in over those teams? Right? Like maybe the other teams on paper have had better records or better seasons or whatever it might be, better losses, however you want to phrase it. But with the first iteration of the college football playoff, don't you want as much juice as humanly possible? Like that's how I would look at it. And I think if Colorado, they have to win out. There's no way they're going to be in this conversation if they have a third loss. But if they can win out, get a little bit lucky, I think if they get to a conference championship game, even if they lose, that's when their chances go up to here. But even if they don't get to that conference championship game, if you see CU win out and do it thoroughly with good wins over Texas Tech and Oklahoma State and Utah, maybe they can find themselves as that number 12 seed, that one of those at-large bids. So I think it's going to take some heavy lifting and some work and some luck, quite frankly. But I also think when we're being neutral observers here, wins and losses aside, we know that attention is what moves the needle. And in this day and age, with a brand new 12-team college football playoff, how good would it be to have Coach Prime's team in the playoff in one of those first games to get it started?
Yeah, you would have to have a lot of things go their way. I think like one of those SEC teams, Alabama or like a Tennessee, I think they would have to have 3 losses in order for a 10-2 Colorado team to jump them. I think you would have to see BYU probably run the table in the Big 12 and be 13-0, and then you're going up against either a 10-3 Iowa State team or maybe a 10-3 Kansas State team, and I think you could jump them as well. So you would have to have a lot of things go their way. I'm not even sure if losing in the Big 12 championship could do it, because I just don't know if they're going to put 3 loss teams in this playoff. But I almost think that a 10-2 team that doesn't play in the Big 12 championship might have a better chance, especially if BYU is able to run the table and win out the Big 12, because then they get the automatic bid. Obviously, Boise State's going to get an automatic bid as long as they run the table as the 5th conference winner. They automatically go as well. So they would have to get a little bit of luck, especially with some of these SEC Big Ten teams, maybe losing a few more games and letting them beat up on each other. But there's a path. There's always a path. And we're going to keep talking about this team, especially if they win all the next 4 games, that they definitely have a chance of getting to the college football playoff.
And Kansas almost knocked off Kansas State last week, right? It was like, what, a 51-yard field goal for the win for the Wildcats. So you got to tip your cap there. But I was rooting big time for KU because I thought if they could knock off Kansas State, that makes their path that much easier. But, LSU still has to play Bama, right? There's some tough games on the schedule for some of these SEC teams, regardless if they have 3 losses or not. We'll have to see. We know the favoritism that comes with the SEC, and likely rightly so. But at the end of the day, Chase, the fact that we are sitting here on the end of October talking about how Colorado even has a chance, a fighter's chance to make the college football playoff, to win the Big 12, I think is a testament to just how good this team has been and just how wrong people in the national media have been after kind of casting them off after their 4-win season last year.
Exactly right. This team is in a great spot. I couldn't imagine it's hard to predict a better spot, and they're Travis Hunter injury away from us seriously talking about this team as a college football playoff team. So they're in a great spot. We'll see. November, I think Josh Pate made a great point on his podcast. I love watching him. Shout out him. He said November is the longest month in college football. There is a lot of things that happen. We love to predict after October. We've seen all these teams a lot, but November, crazy stuff happens. So anything can happen. I love the spot that CU's in, though. They just keep playing better and better football, and it's hard not to think that they can't win out and finish 10-2.
And to your point, it's college football. College football and college sports in general have the most wackiness in them. Like, who's to say that some of these big-time teams don't drop a game and kind of create some chaos here? I think as long as Colorado takes care of their business, which I think they will, stay laser-focused, come out of the bye against Texas Tech, one foot in front of the other. We played the sound bites, right? Coach Prime talks about how he didn't want to be ranked, how it's cute to get to a bowl game, all that kind of stuff. So we'll have to see where Colorado ends up when it's all said and done here for the college football playoff for the Big 12 championship. But let's go on out and bring in our guy, Adam Munsterteiger, the man, the myth, the legend, the Buff aficionado. We're going to talk all things CU, but we're going to dive into the recruiting process. We've seen some big time recruits at Colorado. We'll also get into a little bit of Heisman conversation with Adam Munsterteiger as you bring him in right now here on the Scotia. Scotia AP Chase Howell, joined by the man himself, the Buff aficionado, Mr. Adam Munsterteiger, the publisher of BuffStampede.com. He's been doing this for a long time, our go-to guy for all things Colorado Buffaloes, news and notes. And of course, this segment is powered by our friends over at Peckish. But Adam, it's been a little while. We had to, throw DJ McKinney in the mix. We were able to secure that interview. And I know both Chase and myself have been very busy, but happy to have you back on the show. How are things, my friend?
They're great. That's a great guest to have right now, DJ McKinney. If Travis Hunter wasn't on this team, I think we'd be talking a lot more about him. I think he is a future NFL guy, maybe a top 3 round pick, when you see what he's done his first year in Boulder, and he's got another year before he's draft eligible, I think. Or I think Coach Prime said that he would only go to the NFL early this year if he was a first round pick. And so hopefully we'll get to see him again next year in a Buffs uniform, because they're going to need some dogs to return next year.
Yeah, that is for sure. And one thing, I forget if it was in the interview or when I was talking to DJ after, like, that was my biggest takeaway, is how laser focused he is on just being a good football player. Like, he doesn't care about any of the outside noise and the clout or anything like that. Like, his number one goal is to be the best version of himself. Part of the reason why he came to Colorado, to learn from the best in Coach Prime. And for any of you that haven't watched that interview yet, it is on our Mile High Sports YouTube channel. But all right, let's dive right on into it, my friend. Big time victory for Colorado over Cincinnati. Here we are on kind of this makeshift second bye. Your overall opinion and reaction to Colorado's win against Cincinnati, but more importantly, how good they've looked throughout the course of this season, now being the number 23 ranked team in the nation.
Well, having been around here for a while, Chase, I'm anxious to hear you chime in on this. Having Colorado be bowl eligible before the end of October was a feeling after that game that was pretty awesome. We've all been through a lot, covering, following, being fans of this program, and there is a lot ahead of this team. And I think that's why this bye week comes at a great time to kind of hit reset after getting that bowl eligibility, to really hone in on, okay, now our goals are much bigger going forward. But for that night, I felt like you had to just kind of sit back and just appreciate where this program is now as compared to a couple of years ago, and not in a PTSD way, just in a letting go of that way, of being able to kind of move past some of recent failures of this program. And Cincinnati's a good football team. I think Colorado would beat them on a neutral field 7 or 8 times out of 10. I think they're just a better football team. But that was still an impressive win. And the things that you want to see, improve pass protection and running the football, and Travis Hunter out there making plays, and just so much of it came together that night. And really 2 weeks in a row, ever since that Kansas State game, this team has been playing very consistent football. But my main takeaway was just really putting in perspective how things are much different now as compared to a couple of years ago.
Yeah, being 5-2 is not really an unfamiliar spot that many Bucs fans have been over the past 7-8 years. Maybe there were some opportunities to get to a bowl game, and it seemed like they failed every single time. Even last year, getting to 4 wins so early and not being able to get 2 more. So it was an incredible feeling to get 6 this early in the season. But do you feel almost vindicated at all about just what this Colorado Buffaloes team has been? I know we talk a lot in the offseason about all the buildup and the top quarterback in the country, and they've improved talent all across the board. And I think you even saying that they beat Cincinnati on a neutral field 7 out of 8 times, I think that goes to show the type of talent that is on this team. Do you feel any sort of vindication about how this team has performed this season?
Well, I think anybody that was talking Colorado that did the research this past offseason and realized the influx of talent and kind of seeing them fill the gaps from where they were missing when they were 4-8, and thinking back and going, gosh, that 4-8 season was really disappointing, but they were a little play here or there, or an injury here or there from being a 6-7-1 team with the worst offensive line in the country. So now you've, fixed the issue in the sense that the floor has been risen really high. And I don't know, about you guys, but I always just really felt confident that the floor had been risen so substantially that 6 wins was really not in question. And it was, okay, where from there do they go? And we've seen now with the Big 12 not living up to the way we thought it would be in terms of especially these last 4 opponents that they have with Kansas and Oklahoma State and even Utah down there. The last 3 games, we thought that was going to be this gauntlet of a stretch. And now you look at it and go, Colorado might go 10-2 this season, because they're going to be favored in all those games. So I guess it's just kind of a long-winded way to say that it's vindication for anybody that did research over those people that just, for whatever reason, didn't like what Coach Prime was doing in Boulder, for whatever reason they had, and decided they were just going to base it on surface level stuff versus actually looking at what was being built in Boulder. And that's the part of it that has been fun. And it's too bad that these guys are in and out, so many transfers. You fall in love with the guy, like at Chidozie Wankwell, and then he's going to be out the door. So that part of it's tough, but the roster building coverage / just being a fan following it has been actually pretty fun because you've seen so many talented guys come into Boulder.
And that's what I want to ask you is, what has this season, because we knew after the 4-8 year last year, like it was fun, right? But this was the main entree for Colorado. I saw that they flipped a couple of recruits here in the last couple of weeks. I know that game against UCF, there was a ton of recruits on the UCF sideline, but it felt like there was a bunch of those guys that were there to watch Coach Prime and watch Colorado in particular. How do you think their success already this season, but in particular, if they can finish with that 10-2 record, how do you think that sets Colorado up in the recruiting department moving forward for next year?
Well, you're starting to see them get more prep recruits. It's never going to be the bulk of the additions, I don't feel like, especially you look at some of the pieces they're going to have to replace. A lot of that's going to have to come through the portal. But no, there's definitely a buzz. There were definitely recruits out there. And that's why we've seen it referred to as flip season for Colorado, is now they get to go back in on guys that were interested in Colorado, but maybe they heard that outside noise or they just wanted to see with their own eyes in terms of the wins on the field. And now that that's happening, you're going to get to a point where now you're turning recruits away, which is a good spot to be in. In terms of the 4 and 5 star guys, you're going to see an influx of that with these wins. But we hear Coach Prime talk time and time again about they're not star chasing. They really are learning, I think, steadily at Colorado of like kind of weeding some of these guys out that are looking to go to Colorado for the flash. Okay, that's great. You can get that if you come to Colorado, and that's a good selling point, but you got to have the substance behind it. Otherwise, you're going to get chewed up and spit out of this program pretty quick. And we've seen that, which I think is great. You know, that's a great part of kind of having that other side of guys can leave you when you really want them and you've developed them. Well, now you can kind of create your own roster and kind of go on the other end of it. If a guy's not working hard, you might have been stuck with that guy for 3, 4, 5 years before. Now they're not in the program anymore. And so that part of it, you're going to see just a continued, I think, jump up in recruiting. We've seen that since Coach Prime got to Boulder, and I certainly don't see that that trend going back in the other direction anytime soon.
Let's talk a little bit about Corey Phillips and just what he has done with this entire football roster. Maybe one of the unsung heroes of this team who we don't talk about enough. He went in to this job just with a clear plan, and I just think all the things that he has done, of course, within the transfer portal, but now with recruiting and being able to jump on all these guys late, it has seemed that he has done things so much differently than anybody else that has directed player personnel in college football. And I know that you cover him closely and you pay a lot of attention to everything he has done. Can you just tell us a little bit about all of his different strengths and just how impressed you have been with his ability to build a roster?
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out to me from what I've heard about Corey Phillips is that he doesn't just say, okay, I'm the director of player personnel, I should do X, Y, Z. He kind of is a Swiss Army knife in that champion center. And he's somebody that will spend time with scouts when they're there looking at guys that are on the current roster. He's got his hand in so many different areas, and he's put together a really good staff too. Obviously, having the diverse role that he takes on at Colorado, he's got to have people on the recruiting end kind of doing, a lot of the grunt work stuff. And he's got a good staff up there, and his personality really lends itself well, I think, across the board, from his peers to the recruits to, even media. You watch him on the Prime documentary, and you can tell his care factor is very high. And so he's willing to take on these different roles. And that's part of Coach Prime's magic, is that so many people want to fulfill their goals and don't want to disappoint the head man. And you've really got a continuity factor within that building, because the leadership at the top is very clear. There's not this kind of divisive nature within that building of people trying to power struggle it. It's very clear who runs the program, and Corey Phillips is proven to be a very good piece for them in terms of running that recruiting department. And it's certainly not an easy job, especially when you're doing as much transfer portal recruiting as they are, because that moves so quick. A kid hits the portal, and if you're not in their DMs very quickly, you could be already out of the mix. And so they've done a great job as far as that goes.
Well, speaking of people that have also done a great job, let me tell you real quick about our friends over at Peckish, guys. It is Coach Prime approved. It is Travis Hunter approved. It is Shedeur Sanders approved. And I know it's going to be Adam Munsterteiger approved as well here. Be sure to check out our friends, our sponsor here at the SCO Show. They help us keep the lights on. 2 locations. If you're going to all the games in Boulder, if you're going to visit the campus, whatever it might be sure to check out their location on the Hill, or also make sure to check out their brand new location in the Denver metro area at 4920 South Newport, right off of I-25 in Bellevue. Incredible pizza, incredible wings. And at the Denver Tech Center location in particular, they're doing 1-topping personal pizzas for $10 Monday through Friday. So be sure to check out our friends over at Peckish. I'm a big fan. I know Chase is a big fan, and everybody out there listening will be a big fan as well. Shout out to our friends over at Peckish. But continuing along here, Adam Munsterteiger, BuffStampede.com, always does a great job with us. I've got to ask this. It was a talking point with Drotar earlier in the week on Mile High Sports Today. Coach Prime has been pretty mum about what the future looks like, with him personally. I don't want to ask you, is Coach Prime going to be here or not? But I am of the belief that Coach Prime will do what is best for Coach Prime. And I think the fact that they're going to look to go 10-2. They're going to be in a high quality bowl game. They're going to get Miss Peggy there. They're in the conversation for a Big 12 championship game or a college football playoff. Like, what are some of the factors? I guess the question is, do you see Coach Prime still being into this without Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders?
Well, I just don't see Coach Prime as the type of person that wants to go sit on the couch and certainly, once his sons exhaust their eligibility and go off to the NFL after the season. And certainly he could go back to being on TV and being an analyst, but he just seems like a guy that likes challenges, and he's already done that. And the way they're recruiting, and I get that you're going to recruit no matter what the situation is going to be after the season and what your future holds, but it feels like he's going to be back. But we trying to get away from this PTSD, guys, but we just went through the Mel Tucker thing back in 2020, right? So, there's a little bit of that things are going so well that it's like, okay, when's the bottom going to drop out here? But maybe we should move past that. And I think a lot of people would be able to move past that if Colorado achieves their goals this season, and then we get to 2025 and Coach Prime is still the coach. I think that will happen, but yeah, nothing he has done has signaled anything to me that thinks that he wants to be somewhere else. But yeah, you don't know what those opportunities are going to be after the season. I still see those NFL rumors, and it's like he has made it very, very clear that he doesn't want to coach in the NFL. And so that wouldn't concern me in terms of opportunities there. But yeah, it's hard to tell what things are going to look like. I don't know what Florida State's situation looks like, with Norvell going forward. But even that, it just doesn't seem like a lot of these programs are going to be a better fit for Coach Prime, because he's already gotten the infrastructure the way that he wants at Colorado. Colorado's a national brand right now. And it's not necessarily about the money for him. I think he'd love to be the first African-American coach to win a national championship. And it's not to say you can't do that at Colorado, because you compete in the Big 12, where the entrance into this new 12-team playoff is a little bit easier than maybe if you're at a Big 10 program or an SEC program. And we don't know what the ACC's future looks like. So I don't know. That's good. A lot of things to throw at you there. But if I was going to place a bet today, I think Coach Prime is back in Boulder next year.
Over the last 2 years, and I know we wouldn't have said this 2 years ago, but do you think Colorado has the resources, especially in the athletic department, that are enough to be able to win a national championship in football?
Yeah, it's tough, because I don't know if Colorado's NIL collective is ever going to be in the top 5 or 10 in the country. So you're going to have to play off Coach Prime's fame. But, if these next 4 weeks, Chase, they go 10-2, then that mitigates some of that NIL stuff, and you see the guys that are going to be drafted out of Colorado's program this year, so there are going to be other selling points in there as well. It's not going to be an easy path. But again, you do have an easier chance to at least get in that playoff, I think, at Colorado in the Big 12 going forward than you would at some other, quote, prestigious programs that maybe have a better NIL. And there's the other side of it too. And this is kind of something that Coach Prime has talked about, that, some of these guys are too focused on NIL, and you can kind of go that next tier down and find guys like Nikhai Hill-Green that really, really want it, that aren't going to need that. Maybe the top figure for NIL will need some, obviously, NIL to convince him, but those guys can help you win a lot of football games. And so it will be interesting to see how that goes going forward. I think if they go 10-2, 9-3, and play in a bowl game and have success there, that you will see more people willing to step up NIL wise to back this program. But it would be hard to envision Colorado being, cream of the crop when it comes to NIL budget. But again, as long as Coach Prime's in Boulder, you have other things that can kind of supplement that.
I completely agree. I think Coach Prime and the Coach Prime effect, like I said, like DJ McKinney, when I interviewed him, like that was one of, if not the number one reason that he wanted to come to Colorado, outside of the chance to win and build something, is to learn from the best at a position that he plays. And so I think just the overall pizzazz and energy that Coach Prime brings to college football, I think is not that it mitigates some of the NIL stuff, but I think it's an ace in their cap, an ace up their sleeve, rather that maybe a lot of these teams and programs across the country just don't have. But Adam Munsterteiger, BuffStampede.com. One more for you before we let you go. How's this season ending up? I think they've got an outside chance for a Big 12 championship game, outside chance for a spot in the college football playoff. The fact that we're even able to say that there is a chance, albeit small, I think is a testament to Coach Prime and what they've done this year. You mentioned it, pretty favorable schedule coming off the bye against Texas Tech. I think that's probably their toughest matchup remaining throughout the course of this season. How does Adam Munsterteiger see in the Buff season end out?
Yeah, right now I would sit here and predict them to win each of those games. Now, there are reasons to think that, you know, some of those teams could kind of have things come together. I don't know. I mean, Oklahoma State's in kind of a bad place right now, and you wonder if guys are checking out there. And I think almost at this point, guys, wouldn't you almost wish you had BYU on the schedule? Because that would give you kind of that opportunity to match up with them. Okay. And then, you know, if you win that game, you give them a loss. You got the head-to-head there. It's just tough because BYU has a really easy schedule down the stretch too. I don't know if they're going to lose a regular season game, which is crazy. And then you've got Iowa State and Kansas State that are playing. So it's one of those will pick up a loss, at least one loss there. But you're going to need some help for Colorado, whether you go 10-2, 9-3 down the stretch. 9-3 probably doesn't get you in the championship game. But I think it's in there. They win 3 or 4 down the stretch. I said 8-4 going into the season. I guess you put a gun to my head, my final regular season prediction would probably be 9-3 at this point.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, and they're going to need some help, but just kind of living in the moment, man. The fact that we're this far, 6-2, you know, some good wins throughout the course of the season has been pretty fun. So looking forward to seeing how it all shakes out. But Adam Munsterteiger, BuffStampede.com, the man himself. Really appreciate all of your time, and we'll do it again soon, my friend.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Much thanks to our guy, Adam Munsterteiger, the Buffs aficionado of BuffStampede.com. Make sure to check out his site. Really, really gracious for all the time that he gives us here throughout the course of the season on the SCO Show, and some interesting points as well. But before we get out of here, Chase, let's talk a little Heisman Trophy, because, you know, it felt like the injury there to Travis Hunter in the middle of the year maybe zapped some of the momentum that he was generating. But after the game they had against Cincinnati, a couple of touchdowns, over 100 yards receiving, and continued dominance on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, he's got to be right back up there, no?
He is. We could go to the sports books, and they're already telling us that he is right back up there. And I think he's generating the most conversation nationally. It probably helped. And Ashton Genty had one of his toughest opponents, probably his second toughest opponent behind Oregon. I guess we can say he struggled a little bit and only rushed for like 150 yards against UNLV this past week, which isn't much of a struggle. But for a guy that has been throwing up 200 rushing yards with ease, I guess he struggled a little bit. And I think that helps bring Travis Hunter back into the conversation. And then to go for 150 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, but also just what he was able to do on the defensive side of the ball. And if you watch that football game and those pass breakups, he blanketed Cincinnati's receivers the entire game. So what he was able to do on both sides of the ball, obviously it's well-deserved that he's back into the conversation. And a healthy Travis Hunter is very, very clearly the best player in college football.
It's not even close. And I'll play the Coach Prime clip here in a minute with his thoughts on Travis Hunter. But why don't we do this? Like, what is the definition of the Heisman Trophy? Like what is the criteria? Because Coach Prime kind of hits on this in the soundbite. Like, isn't it the best player in college football? Like regardless of record and all that kind of stuff. Like, because Travis Hunter might be the best player I've seen with my own 2 eyes in college football. And I was with our buddy Unit from Superbook over the weekend, and he made the comparison more in the NFL. But the one guy that Travis Hunter kind of reminds you of, at least in his skill set and the way that he plays both sides, is now NFL Hall of Famer Devin Hester. A guy that, came into the league, played a lot of cornerback, did some receiver stuff, and then was notorious as a kick returner as well. I mean, Travis is the definition of a unicorn, and all due respect to every other player in college football, they're just not as good as him. There's just no other way for me to say it.
There's nobody that has ever done what Travis Hunter does. It is almost pointless to bring up a comparison unless we're talking about Shohei Ohtani. If we're talking about Shohei Ohtani, then I think we can talk about Travis Hunter, because that's the only athlete that I've ever seen that is anything close to what Travis Hunter is. He is dominant on both sides of the ball. He is the best receiver in the Big 12. He's also the best corner in the Big 12, and he's top 5. Maybe you can argue top 10 at both positions as well. There's nobody like Travis Hunter. And you mentioned something there. You said, regardless of wins and losses, this team might go 10-2.
Good, yeah.
If not, their most likely is 9-3. It's like we talked about this at the beginning of the year. How many wins do they need to have in order for Travis Hunter to win the Heisman? They're going to have way more wins than what we expected was going to be the number. So regardless of wins and losses, Travis Hunter has helped this team win a lot of football games. And if he's in that Kansas State game, this team is 7-1. I will say that again. So he is the most important player in college football. He is one of the reasons why they are 6-2. And they're going to end up going somewhere between 9-3 and 10-2, and that is plenty of wins in order to give Travis Hunter the Heisman.
Yeah, it seemed like the losses might be the one thing before the year that hindered his candidacy, or even early in the year. But to your point, they're probably going to be a 2-loss team, 3-loss team probably at most. We want 2 losses. We don't want 3. But no, it's well said. So here's one more clip from Coach Prime talking about the Heisman Trophy. He starts out talking about Shedeur and why Shedeur isn't considered for the Heisman race, which I have my own opinions about. We'll talk about that when we come back after the clip. But here's what he's also saying about Travis Hunter. Coach Prime on his 2 top dogs for the Heisman Trophy. Look at the shirt from Chase. Here's what Coach Prime had to say.
You know darn well why is that. Okay, y'all know why is that. Stop. Y'all stop. I don't care. I really don't. It's just strange. It's just funny to me. I just think it's just ignorant. But it's funny. It's funny to us because Shedeur could care less. Shedeur wants to be drafted in a wonderful city. He wants to win out, and that's what he thinks about. He ain't thinking about no darn Heisman, man. So I'm happy now. Travis is the best college football player in the country. We all know that. Why are we even deliberating over that? So what we doing? Like, when does that change? So what's the criteria? Somebody need to say what's the criteria of that prestigious award, because we're looking at the best high school football player that hadn't been a Travis Hunter ever. And I'm sitting up here saying that.
Nothing new there from Coach Prime. Basically just confirmed essentially what Chase and I were talking about at the end of the day. Are you surprised at all, though, real quick, that Shedeur is not in the running for Heisman?
It's been kind of an odd year for Shedeur. It's like he does everything you could possibly ask for him. He's putting up the same numbers. I think he looks a lot better on the football field than he did last year, but he's putting up very similar numbers. He's top 5 in passing yards. I think he's somewhere near the top in touchdowns, and I think he's like 2nd in the country in completion percentage. He's putting up all the numbers that you could ask for, and for some reason his bar was already so high going into the year that I think nobody is surprised by his performances when he goes for 300 plus passing yards every game and two or 3 touchdowns. It just doesn't seem to be able to create too much buzz. And for some reason, I think when people watch Dylan Gabriel or Cam Ward, and I know those 2 teams are undefeated right now, but they seem to want to talk about those guys over Shedeur Sanders, even though I think when you turn on the actual film and watch these games, I think Shedeur Sanders looks like a much better quarterback, and that's the reason why he's going to go number 1 in the NFL draft. For some reason, and we've seen it in the sports betting odds all year round, he started the year pretty high. He was in the 15, 12-1 range. He dropped pretty early after that Nebraska game, and he's never been able to climb back up. I think you can still get him at 50-1 to win the Heisman. So it's just for some reason he hasn't been able to create that much buzz, and it might have a lot to do with Travis Hunter being with him. I think a lot of people watch CU games and they say, yeah, Shedeur's really good, but his teammate is even better. So it'd be hard to give Shedeur the Heisman Trophy. But I think he's if he finishes strong 4 straight games, I think he at least deserves a trip to New York, and that'd be pretty cool to see both Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders in New York for the Heisman ceremony.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I'll end it on this. I think it's a byproduct, like you said, of having Travis Hunter. I also think I've made this comparison before that Shedeur a little bit this year feels like Michael Penix last year, where he just has an embarrassment of riches around him at wide receiver, like LaJohntay Wester, Jimmy Horn Jr., Will Shepherd, Isaiah Gustav out of the backfield. And I think, rightfully so, Travis Hunter deserves the majority of the Heisman praise compared to Shedeur Sanders. Not trying to take anything away from Shedeur, but as you guys just heard there in the soundbite from Coach Prime, Shedeur not focused on that. Shedeur's about focused on leading this team down the stretch to winning their last handful of games and being the number 1 overall pick in the NFL. That is where Shedeur Sanders' focus is at. Not to say that he should not be in the running, but I think if I had a vote for Shedeur or Travis, I think we all know where the vote's going, and that's going to Travis Hunter, despite the fact that Shedeur Sanders is an elite level quarterback, one of the best players in college football this season. But all right, folks, that is going to do it for us on this week's installment of the SCO Show, powered by Peckish. Make sure to check out our friends, Top Tier Chicken Wings, Top Tier Pizza, 2 locations, one up on the hill, one down in the Denver Tech Center. Be sure to check them out. Let them know that the SCO Show sent you. Thanks to Adam Munsterteiger, as always, for joining the show. And make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video so you guys never, ever miss an episode of the SCO Show and all of the incredible content that we have right here on Mile High Sports. But for Chase Howell, I'm Anilo Piro. Thank you guys so much for watching. Back at it again next week, previewing Texas Tech. It's the home stretch of the season, folks. Enjoy it, and SCO Buffs, baby.
SCO Buffs, it's good to be back, AP. We needed this bye week. We're going to get healthy after the bye, and we're going to be ready to go for this closing stretch of the year. Let's go.
Let's get it, baby. SCO Buffs. We'll talk to you guys next week.